So now Republicans are very, very concerned about the Antifa movement. Antifa, of course, stands for anti-fascist, and they fight against, well, fascists. I mean, obviously, what makes them different from a lot of the resistance groups is that they're not afraid to punch a Nazi. Now, let's be clear. I am personally a nonviolent person. I believe that we can do it without violence, but that's just my personal belief. That said, the Republicans are and conservatives are going hard against Antifa, and they're doing so via legislation that is disastrous. Now, Representatives Dan Donovan and Peter King of New York are among 4 Republicans sponsoring legislation that would punish any mask-wearing counter-protester who says injures, well, that's obvious, oppresses, threatens, or intimidates a demonstrator with up to 15 years in prison. Now, look, injures, okay, I'm still sort of uncomfortable for that because fights happen during protests and things like that. Giving them an automatic 15 years in prison seems a bit excessive. Now, this bill was introduced by Representative Dan Donovan, a former prosecutor best known for helping Eric Garner's killers stay out of prison. So, lovely person, right? Now, it's also co-sponsored by fellow New York Republican Representative Peter King. Peter King, of course, is an avowed white nationalist and very, very racist person. Representative Paul Gosar, who is also a conspiracy theorist. So he believes that George Soros might have orchestrated the violence in Charlottesville through a false flag operation. Wonderful. And Representative Ted Budd, who, of course, is a favorite of the Club for Growth. Now, the legislation introduced by all 4 of these Republicans, these wonderful people, would punish anybody who injures, oppresses, threatens, or intimidates any person engaged in a legally protected right or privilege while wearing a mask with up to 15 years in prison. Now, again, one of the problems here is how vague this is. If you oppress or intimidate someone, well, that's really subjective. Oh, no, I'm being intimidated because somebody is saying bad things about me. He just happens to be wearing a scary mask. Really? That person would get 15 years in prison. That is disastrous. Wear a mask to a protest. Whether it be a Guy Fawkes mask for people, for example, who are doing Occupy. Prison. Go to prison. You're wearing a mask. We can't see you. And then, of course, there are things that can be interpreted as masks. Like maybe a scarf if it's cold. That mask. You're intimidating me and you're wearing a mask. No, I'm wearing a fucking scarf, you idiot. It's cold outside. That's the kind of stuff that it could very, very likely happen if this legislation were adopted. So that vagueness is incredibly disastrous. But nonetheless, there's going to be a lot of people that are like, yeah, but Jeff, you don't understand. Antifa is the worst. They're terrible. They're so incredibly violent. And they hurt so many people. They kill people. Really, how many people has Antifa killed? In the more 30 years of Antifa activity, there has been one confirmed fatality caused by an Antifa group member. Back in 1993, when a Nazi in Portland, Oregon, was shot during a fight at a gas station. Antifa has killed one person in a 30-year history. So let's compare that, right? For comparison's sake. Now, that one person, that's terrible. Don't shoot people. That's terrible. But let's compare this to white supremacists, right? Sovereign citizens, neo-Nazis, the Klan, all the members of these far right-wing groups. Far-right extremists were responsible for 670 fatalities, 3,053 injuries, and 4,420 attacks in the United States from 1990 to 2012, according to a report from the Combating Terrorism Center at West Point. So in the 30 years of Antifa, one person was killed who was a Nazi. And in just, 22 years? A 22-year period? 670 people were killed by extreme right-wingers. I wonder who are the violent ones. I can't tell who are the most violent. Antifa or right-wing terrorists. Can't tell. Can't tell. So, why is the government going after Antifa? I think it's pretty clear. It's because the government are the fascists in this case. You have Donald Trump, Jeff Sessions, Stephen Miller, on and on in the government. People in running police stations. You have people in the military that are part of this far-right white supremacist movement. Again, you have members of Congress, sitting members of Congress like Peter King, who is a well-known white supremacist, retweeting out, other far-right leaders in, for example, I believe it was the Netherlands, and saying, we can't repopulate our country with other people's babies. Yeah, Peter King, definite racist. And look, do you know why this happens? Ironically, it's because we're too civil. We're having this conversation about civility with people who are neo-Nazis. No, you have to be civil to the neo-Nazi. We just got to hear him out. No, I'm not going to hear out somebody who thinks the Jews are running the world and that they're terrible and that, blacks are inferior and we should create a gigantic white ethno-state by kicking out all the immigrants and kicking out anybody who isn't a white right-winger. I don't want to hear that stuff. I'm not going to sit there and compromise with that. Now, if you think like, I think that, rich people can pay less taxes, but I'm against corruption, well, then I can work with you. I don't agree with you on pretty much anything else, but if you're against corruption and you're still, consider yourself a conservative, etc., okay, that's fine. We have differences on a lot of issues, but I can work with you on corruption and things like that. But if you have any of those beliefs, any white supremacist beliefs, then you can go and fuck right off. I don't care. I'm not interested in working with you. I'm not interested in being civil to you. And I won't cry when somebody punches you. Again, don't advocate violence here. I'm just saying that I wouldn't be upset. But look, again, the civility argument, right? Civility emboldens them, okay? And look, there are some in the center that even help them. Let me give you an example here. Peter King is backed by Michael Bloomberg. Michael Bloomberg, who's like, I might consider running for president, and I'm going to sprinkle a whole bunch of money to get other centrists into office. He held a fundraiser at his house for this racist Peter King. This is the so-called independent centrist, Michael Bloomberg. No. Not at all. This should disqualify Michael Bloomberg from doing anything. If that's a centrist, I want no part of that. And I don't think most of you do. And that's the problem with centrists. That's the problem with civility. Because, look, it was the centrists. It's always the centrists. The people are like, no. If we just appease them, if we just work with them, then, everything will be okay. And don't listen to the leftists. No, we're gonna play nice with the center right. Because we need to get votes. Because we need to get popular support. No. You know why? Because that's how fascism begins. And if it's a battle between fascists and anti-fascists, well, I think it's obvious what side I'm going to be on. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.